everyone, my name is Carlee Coggins and I'm the second presenter for Group 6. And today I'll be providing more details about our country, Morocco. The content that I will be covering specifically in this video will be high context language, power distance, collectivism, time orientation, political and infrastructure issues. Our first topic is going to be high context orientation or high context language. So Morocco is considered to have high context orientation. What this means is that messages can be somewhat ambiguous. Something to note is that confrontation and other conversations involving conflict will most likely be privately addressed out of respect. This is important to note because since the messages are ambiguous or somewhat ambiguous, depending on who the receiving party is of that message, depends on how they will receive or then act upon what is said to them. So, depending on their experience with the culture, they could take something in a way that it wasn't meant or not meet the standard of whatever was said, causing conflict. So something to note is that there will be conflict, and there's conflict in every language, but due to the high context orientation here, there will most likely be conflict that needs to be resolved, and it will be resolved in a private way, meaning that the parties will most likely sort this out, but amongst the two of them or amongst whoever's involved, just to preserve that relationship that is so very important in their culture. The next topic is going to be time orientation. So Morocco has a low score at 14, meaning that they have short-term time orientation. So they're more focused on the quick results and the now as opposed to the future results, or the past history of their country or traditions. They're more focused on what's happening in their day-to-day lives and focusing on what they can do to better themselves in the now. For power distance, Morocco has a very high power distance coming in at 70. So what this means is that it's a hierarchical society. Everyone has their place and they are expected to embrace inequalities within society. And subordinates are told what to do. Since I stated that's a hierarchical society, this means that everyone has their place and is put in their place for a reason. And that going by the chain of command, they are supposed to respect that decision that was maybe God made for them or that was society made for them to be in the position that they're in, and they're supposed to accept it and live their lives each day going by this. Next up, we have collectivism. Morocco is considered to be a collectivist society. On the Hofstede Insight scale of individualism, they scored a 46, which would still be classified as collectivism, even though it is kind of in that middle range. Something to note in the society is that loyalty is important in this culture. Not only are you being loyal to families, but to your industry, and relationships are considered to be the key of success in everyday life and the business realm. So each day you are not only considered about your family, but your work family. Each thing you do is all about your interactions and your relationships with others, making sure to be intentional in everything you do. Something to note is that management considers the group and the overall well-being of the team rather than one individual when making decisions for promotions, projects. They're considering how the team is going to react and how it's going to affect them rather than one individual. It is extremely important to note that fact just because since it is a collectivist society, you can definitely see this feature coming through in the business realm. Next up, we have political issues. So in the top right-hand corner, we have Mohammed VI, who is the current king and leader of the semi-constitutional monarchy that exists in Morocco. There are limitations of this system, and currently there are limitations of political rights and civil liberties. This is something that's not uncommon. That's actually been going on for a while in this monarchy. We're experiencing corruption, or they are experiencing corruption in each branch of government, as well as discrimination amongst women is very common. This is a more masculine society. So they're experiencing in this culture too, since 99% of the culture is Muslim, that women are not being considered for political positions and other things as that. Finally, here we have infrastructural issues. A major problem right now is going to be the high percentage of unemployment, not only because it existed in the country previously prior to COVID-19, but COVID has not helped the situation at all. 1 in 4 people live in absolute poverty or under constant threat. Something to also note is that there are refugees coming into this country currently, and if the people who have been living there and are residents and who have been here for a long time are living in poverty, it's not looking good for those coming in seeking a safe place and a better life. And then many of those in poverty do not have access to plumbing and other infrastructures considered necessary. Something to note is that the electric power grid is not reaching most of the rural areas in Morocco. So this quarter that is living in absolute poverty is most likely going to be affected by the in and out electricity power grid. That is something that is still not common even for the other 3 quarters, but it's especially not common to have constant power for that quarter that is living in poverty, along with the plumbing, not having access to fresh water. That is definitely something that is going to continue to affect this country, especially in the rural areas, until efforts are made to expand the power grid for the area as well as the plumbing infrastructure. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much.